My brother slew me and buried my bones under the sand, under the stones. I slew the boar as he ran from his lair, but he won the hand of the lady fair. A wild boar was terrorizing the countryside. It ripped up fields, it destroyed crops, it killed people. And so the king declared this menace must be stopped. And so for whoever would go out, hunt the boar and kill it, to that person the king would give a sack of gold. There were no takers. So the king decided to sweeten the pot. Whoever would kill the boar would not only get that sack of gold, but also the hand of the princess, the king's only daughter, in marriage. Now there were two brothers, sons of a poor man. The elder brother was brave and bold out of pride. The younger brother was innocent and ignorant out of a pure heart. And the two brothers decided that if they worked together, one of them was bound to kill the boar. And then they would go to the castle, get the sack of gold. One of them would marry the princess. The family would be set for life. So the next morning they set out. And when they got to the edge of the forest, the elder brother went to the right, and the younger brother went to the left. And the younger brother had not gone far when suddenly a dwarf jumped in front of him. And the dwarf was holding a dark spear. And the dwarf said, Here, take this spear. Use it to kill the boar. If you have this spear, the boar cannot hurt you. Well, the younger brother took the spear. Thank you. And he continued walking. And soon he turned and entered the forest. Well, he worked his way between the trees, and at last he came to a clearing. And on the far edge of the clearing, there was a bush that was moving. And as the younger brother watched, the boar came out into the open. Now, the boar was smaller than he had made it to be in his mind, but it looked powerful. And the boar fixed its beady eyes on that young man. And then it lowered its head, pawed the ground, and charged. The younger brother was terrified. All he could do is stand there and hold the spear sticking straight out from him. And that boar was in such a rage, it impaled itself on the spear, pierced its heart, fell over dead. The younger brother could not believe his good luck. So he removed the spear, picked up the boar, threw it over his back, and began to walk home. He exited the far side of the forest, and soon he came to a cottage. There were lights burning in the cottage. There was music. He could hear laughter. And he saw the elder brother come out on the porch. The elder brother had been at the cottage the whole time, fortifying his courage with wine. But when the elder brother saw the younger brother coming with the boar, jealousy coursed through his veins. He was the one that should have killed the boar. Get the gold, get the princess. But his face revealed nothing. Instead, he said, "Ha ha, brother, well done. Come in, relax, have some wine." So the younger brother put down the boar and went into the cottage and enjoyed some wine with his brother, told him the whole story of the boar. It was long after dark when the elder brother suggested that they should make their way home. So as they stepped outside again, the younger brother picked up the boar, and as they were walking home, there was a point where they had to cross a river by way of a narrow bridge. And as they did so, the elder brother moved behind the younger brother and then dealt him a blow that left him dead. He took the body of the younger brother and buried it there in the riverbank. And then he picked up the boar, and he went to the castle, and he got the gold, and he married the princess. Now you might think that this is the end of the story. But nothing is hidden from the eyes of God. Time passed, and one day a peasant was moving his small flock of sheep over that bridge, over the river, and he saw protruding from the bank a bone. The peasant went and dug out the bone. It was a beautiful white bone. He thought, I will take this home and carve it into a flute. So the peasant carved the flute, and the first time he blew into that bone, the bone began to sing. My brother slew me and buried my bones under the sand, under the stones. I slew the boar as he ran from his lair, but he won the hand of the lady fair. The peasant thought, what a marvelous bone! The king will love this. And so the peasant went to the castle and asked to see the king. And he was brought into the throne room, and there was the king on his throne. There was the elder brother sitting with the princess. The peasant stood before the king. He held up the bone flute, blew into it, and the bone began to sing. My brother slew me and buried my bones under the sand, under the stones. I slew the boar as he ran from his lair, but he won the hand of the lady fair. The king turned to the elder brother. The king knew exactly the story the bone was singing. The king declared that his guards take the peasant to the place on the riverbank where he had first discovered the bone, and there they found the rest of the bones of the younger brother. The elder brother confessed to all, but as punishment, he was sewn into a sack with many heavy rocks and thrown into that river. And the bones of the younger brother were gently washed clean and laid to rest in the churchyard next to the castle. And so, my friend, should you find yourself contemplating dark deeds, do beware of singing bones. Now, if you asked her why she bought what was known as the sea captain's house, she would tell you it was the rocking chair that sealed the deal. Because the house was old. It was over 100 years old. It was way too old, way too big for a single mother and her infant daughter. But when she went into that upstairs bedroom, you know, the one that faces the Pacific Ocean, the one with the French doors that open out onto that small balcony, in that bedroom, there was an antique rocking chair. She asked the realtor, why the chair? The realtor didn't know. But when she sat down in that chair, the wooden slats fit her back perfectly, and she began to rock. And it all came together in her mind's eye. This room would be the nursery. And every night she would open those French doors and then pick up her little infant daughter and sit down in that rocking chair and rock her to sleep. Now, the realtor didn't know the story of the house. She had just taken her by the house as kind of a lark, but the legend had it that the house had been built by a sea captain for his wife so that she could watch him return from sea voyages. But then, best laid plans. The sea captain's ship had gone down with him on it. And so his widow lived there for years and years and years, and then she died. Now the house had changed hands a few times. It had stood vacant for decades. And at some point, someone had upgraded the electrical and the plumbing, so now it was on the market, and it was priced to sell. And with the life insurance money, she could pay cash. So she moved in, and the first room that she unpacked was the nursery. And that first night, she threw open those French doors, picked up her little infant daughter, Amelia, sat down in that rocking chair, and began to rock. The baby was asleep instantly, which was great because the chair was really uncomfortable. But she figured she'd been moving boxes all day. Well, the next night, when she sat down in the chair with her little infant daughter and began to rock, she found she had to keep shifting and changing. The chair was so uncomfortable. But at last, the baby fell asleep. So she stood up, walked over to the crib, put down her sleeping daughter, turned around and looked at the chair. The chair stopped rocking. She thought, well, that was weird. She walked over and pushed the chair. It rocked once and stopped. Well, the next night, she was around the corner unpacking her bedroom, and she could hear Amelia in her crib, and Amelia was laughing and babbling, the way babies do, when all of a sudden she heard, she ran around the corner into the nursery and saw that the rocking chair was rocking by itself. But then she saw the French doors were open, and there was a stiff breeze coming in off the ocean. The rocking chair was rocking in the breeze. She went over and closed the French doors, and then she put her forehead against the wood and thought, oh, what a year it's been. First having Amelia, and then losing Jim. She turned around, and there was Amelia in her crib, her eyes bright, and Amelia smiled one of those toothless baby grins, and her heart just melted. Well, the next night, Amelia was already asleep in her crib. So she was down in the kitchen unpacking, and she had the baby monitor on, when suddenly she heard, she dropped everything and ran up the stairs. And from the top of the stairs, she could look across the hall and see into the nursery that the rocking chair was rocking by itself. She ran into the nursery, and the French doors were closed. The rocking chair stopped rocking. She looked at the chair. She looked at her daughter sleeping in the crib. She looked back at the chair. She said, that's it. You are out of here. And she grabbed the chair and started to drag it toward the door. But there in the doorway, the rocker caught, the arm caught. It was like the chair was fighting to stay in the room. So she pushed the chair back into the room, went over to the French doors, threw them open, and with a strength she did not know she had, she grabbed that rocking chair and hurled it up over the balcony. It flew through the air, hit the ground with a crash. Splinters. But that was not enough. She ran outside and picked up those pieces of broken wood. She went over to the burning barrel, stuffed them inside, doused the whole thing with lighter fluid, lit a match, and the flame just... She stood back from the flame, and that is when she saw it. 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, a woman. There in the flame, the woman passed up through the flame and into the night sky. The next morning at first light, she went down to the burning barrel and she scooped those still warm ashes into a metal bucket. And then she took the narrow trail that led down to the ocean shore. It was one of those still mornings, not a sound, not a breath of wind, not a wave. And in one fluid motion, she took the bucket and tossed it. The ashes flew up, they arced, and they rained down into the sea. And then she said, "It's over. Go to him." And then, out of nowhere, this wave began to build. The wave rolled toward shore. It crested, and the water washed up on the beach and gently touched her toe.